dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. So, Warhammer Day, getting a whole bunch of previews of Warhammer 40,000 today. Usually, Warhammer TV, they do a stream on Twitch. I don't know if they do it on the YouTube side of things, but yeah. So, anyway, I've started the stream. It's supposed to start at 8 a.m. Central, but if you want to skip ahead, if you're watching this after the fact, it's probably in about 4 or 5 minutes into the time. I'm starting this at about approximately 56. Not approximately, I'm looking at the clock. But anyway, yeah. And you can probably hear the overly dramatic music playing in the background and everything like that. So I am on YouTube and Twitch doing this. Now, if you're not prepared for the experience of watching a live reveal preview show with me, I usually talk over the commentators, and it's usually pretty annoying, and I usually crack bad jokes. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, then stay and join with me. And if you're not, well then, you know, feel free to change the channel, as it were. I made the mistake that not realizing that the time they posted was Central, because I'm in Eastern time zone. And so I was a little bit early. I jumped the gun, as it were. And yeah, I feel really, really silly for being up so damn early. I didn't have to be up there. I could have got up less than an hour ago. So, you know. Live and learn. Live and learn. Pay attention to the details. Legion, hello. Any guesses on the stuff they show? I think they're going to show us a new faction. A new faction within Warhammer 40,000. Because that's what today is. It's Warhammer Day, all about Warhammer 40,000. 35 years of Warhammer 40,000. And yes, we are going to get a preview of a brand new faction. What is that new faction, you may ask? The Harud. I'm calling it right now, the Harud. If you're not familiar with what the Harud are, nobody really knows. We just got one simple little design, and I think they've been mentioned a few times in some lore. Various descriptions of these guys. But if you look at the old Warhammer 40,000 3rd edition rulebook, there's a little picture of, like, you know, Xenos, and one of them is the Harud, and the Harud suspiciously looks like rats. Well, we have rats in Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, Skaven. So, will we see a port of Skaven into Warhammer 40,000? Why not, right? Because Warhammer 40,000 essentially is Warhammer, just sci-fi, right? It's fantasy or sci-fi. And it's the same, you know, kind of premise. And yeah, so Harud. That's what I'm calling. I'm calling Harud. And, you know, you can't convince me otherwise. In fact, every release that we see today, further into this video, I'm further convinced Harud are on the way. Even when it's just Space Marines, it's Harud. I'm convinced, man. You can't convince me otherwise. You can't convince me otherwise. Like, you're just not. It's not going to happen. What is the maximum number of Space Marines that can be carried in a single Thunderhawk transporter? 40. Is it 40? Okay. What was the name of the hill occupied during the battle at the farm? The first Rogue Trader scenario ever printed. What was it called? Go ahead. What was it called? I don't even remember what the hill is called. And I just watched a battle report the other day on Warhammer Plus. I mean, I suppose I could just crack open a Rogue Trader and find the answer, but... Tooth's Craig? Balta's Rise? Oh, wait. Jeez Louise. Nice. 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 Honestly, I can't even remember. I'm going to say Tooth's Craig. Because it's Tooth's, right? It's Teefs? It's Teefs and Tooths. So, no, it's Balta's Rise. I know, and I just watched that battle report, and, you know, honestly, like, all my games of Warhammer 40,000, I have never played the scenario that is given in the main rulebook. Believe it or not. I know many of you are shocked, I'm sure, but no, I've never played the full scenario. It's never happened. I just, just never did it. It's never happened. All right, making sure everything's running properly before all these previews begin. Oh, we've got more things going on here. What's going on here? Previews. I guess I could turn the volume up just a little bit, eh? Where's the volume? They gave us to showcase this little video there on the Warhammer community site earlier this week, I believe. I don't know, I can't remember. That's 4th edition. Still got a whack ton of those jet bikes to go. Let me get into 5th edition, 6th and 7th. I think a lot of people would like to, put 6th and 7th edition behind them. It was kind of not a dark time, but I know back in those days when those editions were out, not a lot of people were playing a lot of 40k. It was really, really bloated. And when people talk about bloat, yeah, it's usually those times that they're talking about. Usually. 8th edition. Or is this 9th? I can't. There's so many damn editions. Space Marines. Of course, it's always about the Space Marines. Always. Love that piece of artwork. Love it. Can't get enough of it.
Hello everybody and welcome to this very special Warhammer preview online. It is Warhammer Day and we are bringing you a Warhammer 40,000 preview online. My name is Adam Troke and I'm joined by Eddie Eccles.
It's an absolute pleasure to be
Who's
here.
the star man? Hey man, what's happening?
To talk about Warhammer 40,000 for an hour or so.
Where's the preview picture with the silhouettes on the Warhammer community site?
Happy Warhammer Day.
Happy Warhammer Day.
Happy Warhammer Day to all of you. And we hope over the next hour or so you will enjoy seeing some cool stuff that maybe you haven't seen before and learning a little bit about it. Whew. So, where do we begin? Well, over the next hour or so, as I said, we're going to show you lots of cool things. Before we do, let's get bedded in. There is a question I always ask. Mr. Lamatastic has his answer primed and ready to go. We are joined by thousands of you around the world. Where are you joining us on this Warhammer Day from? Let us know in the chat. And then I can see it just explodes immediately with Glasgow in Scotland. Scotland are in the lead with early start. But here we go, it's gone mad. Taunton in the UK, Oregon in the USA, Belgium,
all
Taiwan,
the Scots are showing up.
Perth in Australia. It's a good time of the day for Australia, is it today?
I think it's always nice.
I'm here, Daddy.
Yes. Sweden, New York. Thank you wherever you are joining us and choosing to spend a little bit of time talking about our amazing hobby.
That's one of the cool things about these previews is that we get to share it with hobbyists around the world. Me and Adam are always excited about 40k.
Pretty much constantly.
Always.
Yes.
But it's nice to be able to talk to all of you guys at home when you're excited too, hopefully. And we've got some very exciting stuff to show you.
You know what? They say when they
we're
say
also, before we kick off, going to have a little retrospective, maybe.
They'll actually give you a call.
Back on the last 35 years of 40k while we're kind of waiting for other people to turn up in the chat. Because it's been a pretty busy 35 years for Warhammer 40,000.
It really has. So
have your answer ready when they call.
Before we jump into this.
Call you.
What was your first Warhammer 40,000 model?
So my first model ever.
Everybody remembers their first.
Probably like a relatively by the number Space Marine.
Yeah.
Like really early on, but
like RTBO1 little plastic guy.
No, it would have been the ones just after them. So it would have been a tactical Space Marine with his kind of really classic Space Marine helmet.
Are you a child of 2nd edition?
I am a child of 2nd edition.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's right. I had my cardboard dreadnoughts and my 40 Gretchen in identical poses. The most well-behaved Gretchen Warhammer 40,000's ever seen.
I love them with the little spiky hats and
I had that box and I had the big Weapons of the Dark Millennium box with the million billion various war gear cards and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a 1st edition. You've been with us for even longer, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. So I've been with it for about 33 of the 35 years.
So close.
35 years Warhammer, but I've been in it for 36.
Were plastic squats.
Wonder if
and a couple of very little metal space
Scotland.
marines.
have just sobered up.
And then I
is what they
really
mean.
got into it in a big way in second edition. That was a few years later. We didn't know what we were doing in first edition.
I had
Scots
the
here
first
that are sober?
book I ever purchased was the Angels of Death Codex, which at the time I was like, this book looks great.
Yeah.
I bought it. I didn't have the core rule book. I didn't know what any of the numbers meant.
If
I
Warhammer
just
Art
liked the artwork and
.com
read all the
put this
lore, and
print
then that
out
was kind of me. And
for
I've
sale.
had
Nice
some flavour
high-res
of Angels of Death Army ever
print
since.
of it.
I love it. So, talking about like that first
this
edition,
is
this is
one of my
the
favorite
seminal
pieces
piece of artwork that was the cover
Ever.
of Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader, sometimes known now as first edition. If this was your edition that you jumped in on, let us know in the chat. I'm really curious to see if this is where you jumped on board. This was, of course, more like a role-playing game in some ways than the mass battle game that we're familiar with now.
I think we all
and
know that by
included
this
some
point.
properly mad rules.
Like everybody
and
knows that by this point,
really
right?
set the sort of tone for that grim darkness of Warhammer 40,000
I
that we
think
know
mine
and
was
love.
the
Yeah,
old
obviously
Farseer from,
depicting
like,
a glorious
2003.
victory by the
Still
force of
have
the
it. It's
orcs over
unrecognizable
the
now. It's missing gold arms,
contemptuous
and all the helmet has no
Crimson
decorative
Fist.
I
crest
spent
left.
many hours looking at this picture when I was
Sounds
a
like
little
more like
boy.
a chess
So
piece right now.
absolutely love it. Oh, everybody's chiming in.
Right in the nostalgia. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, yeah. What else did I say? Crimson Fist has been making flawed last stands ever since. Second edition heralded a bit of a step change.
I had a buddy
think
who
it's fair
left.
to say for
Yeah,
Warhammer.
I think I had all those
40,000
books
during second
I think
edition
The Eldar one
because he
particularly was
there was no
incredible.
more grim dark
I remember
in
getting
the
that
game.
book and absolutely absorbing
So,
all of the lore of like,
people
the
making,
Avatar and
you know,
the different aspects.
claims
and the art
of,
back then
you
was
know,
so
grimdark and everything like
iconic
that.
It's still kind of
Yeah, I know
resonates now,
people
doesn't it?
who
It really does.
didn't get into second
the-
edition
my codex
because
for this era, the army I was playing
the
with was
grimdark
orcs.
felt like
And
it was
choice.
too
I
cartoonish.
had
And
an extremely
in the art
bleeding
style
coward
and the
game
way
with
the
orc
books
army,
and the way the game even
nothing
played,
like
like all the
what I play
cards,
nowadays
everything like
on
that,
comics.
it did have a
was-
very
it
well.
was
He used to
awesome.
call it like a Fisher
And
Price
these
kind of
codexes,
feeling
they
to it.
really,
And yeah,
sort of
you can
announced
see it
the
back in
writers
the
for
day, like
background,
with all
like
the second
people
edition
like
stuff.
David
Just have a
Johnson
look
and
at all the
James
second
and
edition
Priestley
stuff,
and so on. To
and
really dive into
you
the
can see it
background
has a
of these forces
very
and bring it to life.
new
Saying,
person
Angels of Death,
friendly kind of
changed my
vibe
life,
to
and I
it.
get an
But
opportunity to do yours too.
they refined the idea of
well,
like army
of
lists
course it didn't stop
and
there.
missions,
This was the
right?
this was the content of that.
It was a streamlining of the rules. Rogue Trader was just a little too all over the place,
sort of group of Warhammer
whereas
nerds
second edition
speaking over
really
the moon
kind
how
of
cool this was.
made it
I
more
don't
of a
think
tabletop
there's any
miniature
piece of
wargaming
cardboard that
kind
had
of
more
thing.
use in my life than the.
So really, second edition
well,
is
not
when
the
the
scenery.
game
The Dreadnought
kind of
certainly is
becomes
better
what
on
we
Battlefield,
kind of
but
recognize
the scenery,
as
I
a
think, stopped
tabletop
looking for about
game.
20 years.
Rogue Trader
The
really
Military
wasn't like
collection
that.
From this, it's looking a bit ragged. These days,
So why is this the
Ghost of Starman. Never noticed the forearm Titan in the background before. It's not a Titan, actually. It is a Orc Dreadnought. That's what the silhouette of the Orc Dreadnought used to
That's
look like.
definitely my edition. Look at
shout us out in the chat.
Look in the far right-hand corner there. You got the artillery dice and scatter dice as well.
Yeah, artillery dice and scatter, yeah.
Sustained fire dice, watching things blow up. Of course,
Third
second
edition, yep.
was
I still have a
replaces the
sprue of
movement
those
punches
trees,
along
and I
with
think I
third
still have some of
edition,
those
which was
ruined
incredible.
somewhere.
Massive fan of third edition. Played
And the whippy sticks. That's when, when you got those whippy sticks. Oh, man. And there's a reason we all call them whippy sticks, too.
The Space Marines were a real step change. Those
yeah, multi-part. That was the first really.
Also,
really
everybody
multi-part
freaked out
kit,
because it was Dark Eldar as well. This is when we first get Dark Eldar.
Wonderful, weird things with them. I had a huge Dark Eldar army at the time. I had a 9 Raider.
Up to this point, second edition and first edition, Dark Eldar was essentially just chaos.
There's more than 20,000 people in there. Somebody in the chat said, "Is the cardboard dreadnought still a valid unit?"
A Tau were introduced in third edition. Necrons
were
codified
nostalgia,
in
but I'm not sure how
third edition.
tournament.
So basically, yeah, third edition brought about all of these factions.
Loads of new factions. And I'm old enough that I still think of all these as slightly new.
Yeah, these are the new guys, right?
Yeah, these are new guys.
They've only been around for 25 years now.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
So Dark Eldar,
Tau are definitely new guys.
The Necrons. The Necrons did get a little.
I had a
in
metal
second
model
edition.
from a White Dwarf.
Yep.
That,
we
came out.
played so many scenarios. We set up a big
Ghost of Starman seems big for an Orc Dreadnought. Surely, maybe it's closer to the shot than I thought. Yeah, it's a shadow. Imagine there's a light source behind that Dreadnought as it's approaching. Right? In movies when you see the big silhouette in the smoke and dust and what have you. That's I think that's what it's representing. But that silhouette is the old Orc Dreadnought.
Change the world.
Look up Rogue Trader era Orc Dreadnought, and you'll see what I mean.
It's great to see.
You'll see it's very very.
And then this fella turned up, and it all got a bit feisty.
Legion.
Yeah,
I miss
some
scattered
big
ice and
fights
blast
and,
markers for
this is
weapon
one of the
explosions.
first times
Yeah.
that the
Sometimes I
story
do.
for 40K
They
moved,
do
because
slow
up
the
until
game
this point,
down,
it was always,
but they were a fun part
it
of
was
the
always a
game. I
setting,
think when
really,
the game
rather
was
than a
smaller,
moving story. Some of this stuff has kind of
it
rolled
worked.
back a little
But
bit.
now
and
that
might
the games
been
are just so darn
reinterpreted,
big with
but
so many
fundamentally
models,
this was the war for KD,
blast
wasn't
markers
it?
and stuff
It
just
really
kind of
was.
slow the game down.
Wonderful.
They're fun,
KD's doing alright these days. I haven't checked it out.
especially
I'm
when you
sure
get into
it'll be
Apocalypse, because then you
We've
put the big
seen,
pipe weights down.
of course, some serious revisions.
Then Dark Elder get the
refreshes
update.
along
Oh,
the way.
man.
A lot of people herald this is the greatest.
So I
re-release
think
we've had
this is the best range re-release ever, basically, because the
it was
Dark
basically
Elder,
a
the
rework
Drukhari
of the
were
whole
always,
faction,
They were
right?
quite cool. They were like the kind of space pirate vibe. But when this range came out and they had the new raiders and the new warriors and the new witches and all the stuff, the peripheral stuff that came along with it, absolutely went from kind of quite a cool army to pretty much the best looking army in 40k overnight. Such a cool reinvention.
Totally agree.
And the other one I'd put up there maybe would be the for me the Gene Stealer Cult reinvention of recent years.
I'd
It was a
overlooked
pretty
them completely.
Yeah,
sweet
Gene Stealer
army.
Cult is another one that's a new
Sister
edition
Battle,
as well.
which kept the
Yeah, I guess we
original
have like
design
quite a
aesthetic
few new editions,
completely,
right? Because we have
just
Custodes, we
leapt
have
it forward.
There's been some
Mechanicus,
doozies, yeah,
But
yeah.
the
And
Gene
of course,
Stealers,
Games of Votan is,
or
Gene
Gene Stealer Cult,
winner.
right?
and then we had
What's another
Knights. The arrival of Knights
Somebody
and
else
Super
I'm
Heavies
missing.
generally was massive.
The scale of Warhammer 40,000 has
I guess
increased,
League of
hasn't it, in
Votan-
time? And what I
Votan
mean
now.
by that is like the number of cool big things. Back
Oh,
when
Knights.
I started,
Inclusion of Knights
the
into the
little
game.
Orc Dreadnought that was maybe, I don't know, the length of my index finger.
Yeah.
Was like a big dominating thing on the tabletop, whereas now an Imperial Knight stands like a Goliath over your army, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and even these days, if you've got one Imperial Knight, you're like, he's only got one Imperial Knight. It's all right, I can take out one.
It's the length of my pinky.
Incredible.
Speaking of big guys,
I think somebody just said, wait, these aren't in fourth edition. I believe we have jumped through the bounds of time. So at this point, we are like firmly in
the Cicatrix Maledictum's really messed up the
that 7th
timeline.
to 8th category.
Yeah.
So if you want to give me a 4th, 5th, or 6th edition shout out, fun fact, I helped write the How to Play guide for 4th edition. There you go.
Okay.
That was the Battle of Macragge. Then it was the Black
So
Reach
if-
set with the orcs.
So
And
if
so
you
many
were very
people
good
still
at
have
4th edition, that's
Black
Adam's fault for not
Reach.
teaching you.
But if you were great at 4th edition,
It seems like
then,
Black
you're
Reach
welcome.
really was where a
Okay.
lot of
No
people
problem.
jumped in.
Definitely dodged.
That
There
seemed
you
to
go.
be a
Some
big
people are
entry
giving.
point.
4th failed at. Don't say it.
Legion clearly missing the
of course,
Hrud or Zote army.
we,
I've
we've
honestly
seen some
okay.
of
Well,
the-
in Rogue Trader, you
sort
have
of the
Zotes,
mega stars of Warhammer 40,000,
and Zotes are described as being part of
return
a Slan force.
and perhaps no more
And
sort of
so-
key example of that would be
Yeah.
the Primarchs. with
And
obviously
Slan
Guilliman,
basically are the old
Mortarion,
ones. So
and, obviously,
will we see old ones?
The one who
Yeah,
with
and
Zotes.
Magnus as well.
We have a few iterations of
Oh,
Zotes,
I don't
right? There's a
know.
Zote in
We all make
Blood
mistakes.
Bowl, and there's also
so
the
I
Zote
think when Magnus
in
returned,
Blackstone
the
Fortress,
first
right?
of the Primarchs, that really was.
So
like a
we
step
do
change moment,
have
wasn't it, when
versions
we were like,
of
hang on a
Zotes
minute, this isn't
with a
this is
new
just like messing around
Seraphon
with the
army for
peripheries
Age of
the
Sigmar.
timeline.
Whenever
This is
that
really
gets
like the
reworked,
movers and shakers
will we
return
see
sort of
the
thing.
inclusion
He's
of
on Fenris,
Zotes
he's ripping up the place,
and
and then obviously
Snakemen?
Reboot Guilliman returns.
there's also
and the galaxy
Snakemen
got ripped in
in
half, and Mortarion
Warhammer
came back,
Fantasy
and
as
it's
well.
a pretty exciting time if you've been following the main.
Right, we're supposed to be
timeline
talking
for
40k though. All right,
Yeah,
all
and
40k.
Speaking of that timeline,
Artwork for 40k, love it.
Warhammer 40,000 move
I'm
forward in a way that
particularly
now that really has
nostalgic
never
about
done in
the
my
classics.
previous, like I don't know, the first 27 years or so of my
A lot of the
experience
newer
with
artwork, it feels just a little
was
too
sort of
digitally
static
heavy
and
for
movable,
me.
always placed at sort of 2
Not that
minutes to
it's
midnight,
really a bad
and
thing,
now
but
the clock is moving,
it
and
just
I'm
I don't
not
know.
sure the
It
Imperials
is a
are doing
minus
more
in
danger.
my
Also, that spark
opinion.
of hope thanks to the return of Guilliman. Maybe. Just
I
a
know
little
there's
bit
many
of
out
hope.
there.
Yeah,
who
there's
go, no,
definitely-
the new artwork is
The
way
only
better
thing
than the
to
old
decide
one.
really is
and,
exactly how do
you
There they
can
are,
have that debate.
the reinvention for the Sisters of Battle. This was a huge moment a few years ago when, after a fairly long hiatus, the Sisters of Battle returned with multi-part plastic kits and a full
Yeah, Sister of Battle didn't get an
reinvention of
update.
pretty much the entire
Well, from
entire
second
time
edition,
miniature
and
range, including
Sister
some
of Battle came in
brand new things we
at
hadn't
the
seen
end
before, but also
of
classics like
second
Energy
edition.
Engines and Seraphim and all sorts of stuff.
Hell,
Yeah,
I mean,
the
if
thing
second
is just
edition lasted a
how
little bit longer, we probably would have got the Necrons
like
in
the
that as
main
well.
battle unit, that Sisters of Battle squad,
Because they kind of came out in a White
looks
Dwarf article way back
essentially
in the day.
exactly the same as it ever did, but also has evolved through all the techniques.
Legion, I
and,
want Zotes mercenaries for the
craft
Dark Elder.
that has
Yeah,
sort of
okay.
increased in the Citadel Design Studio, and so they're somehow the same but better. I love it.
Yeah.
I really do. I think they're an absolute piece of art.
Yeah, the
I
new
bought
sisters
loads,
are
and
fantastic.
Sat on my shelf
pieces.
because, I've got too many Dark Angels to paint.
There you go.
And I actually don't care for this
So,
map.
so this is talking about the timeline of
Space map.
Warhammer 40,000. Yeah, space map. This is that enormous great rift
it's like
across
the
the middle of the
negative
galaxy. There is
of
the
looking at
Cicatrix
the galaxy,
Maledictum,
right?
which is
Like it's
the
like they
Great
took the
Rift.
negative.
That is the
I don't know why they
galaxy
do
being
that.
torn in half by various calamities
I mean,
that
you know,
happened across it, everything from the events
just
of
makes a
Fenris
little bit
all
more
the way
sense
through
when
the fall of the
you can
Cain
see all the
Gate and other
stars
various disasters
when it's a
that
black
have
field
befallen it all
with
the way along there.
light stars. Right?
And at the moment in Warhammer 40,000,
don't
if you
really
want
care
to get
for
from
the
one
Senate.
side of the galaxy to the other,
If
you
they
have to
did
go
it
through
in,
basically demon-infested waters.
if they did it
of
so it
that
looked
massive
like
tear in reality, which is
an
bleeding
actual
warp
satellite
magic
photo,
across the
I think that would
galaxy basically.
Yeah, and just try not to be on the nihilist side if you can.
Yeah, if you're on the top,
Just try and be
if you're in the
lucky.
top bit, unless you happen to be in golden armor or have a Space Marine chapter with you, you're probably doomed.
Indominus.
Oh, and then I guess this brings us right up to where we currently are with Indomitus.
This was a good
Yeah, so
set.
the Necrons have been waking up across the galaxy, and
You got a ton of
certainly
new
in the,
Necrons,
various
and the new
different
Necron
pockets,
sculpts are
but primarily where
fantastic.
the Silent King has been
New
returning.
Space Marines
They've been
with
up
the
to all
bikes,
sorts
new
of
bikes,
various things, including trying to make the Pariah
and the,
Nexus, which is
shield
a bit of the
leaders.
galaxy where they've turned the warp off, which is
duty.
almost as awful as where they've turned the warp on extra. So you can choose your doom depending on whereabouts in the galaxy you want to go to, but pretty much it's apocalypse everywhere.
Yeah, new Necrons kick
yes.
ass though.
Yes, there's still nowhere. Oh, and then the most
And then these
recent
guys.
big news.
Still in the middle of
Now, are we going to
Warlords.
see any previews for these guys? I don't
essentially
think
the
so, right?
reimagining Of a classic,
we're pretty much up to
Warhammer
date,
40,000 faction,
aren't
my
we?
first
Did we
ever
know what's
40,000
coming?
Models, with
Don't
the
we?
leagues of Votan, variously given nicknames around the galaxy, but actually.
But are they
kindred
really a new
of a
faction, or is it
ancient?
have they? They're an old faction that has been updated, kind of like how Sisters
Yeah,
were.
these
Sisters were in
these
second
legendary
edition
when I started
and first
playing. I
edition.
think there's some notes in my codexes that said I could take 25%.
Didn't get an
of my
update
army as
until
squad allies,
recent,
and I was like,
right?
what are
I
they?
say
And
recent,
they
but
never
Sister
showed up
Val's probably what,
for
4
about
years
20
now?
odd years. But here they are, returned.
But anyway.
Back and they're bigger than ever, although they are about the same size.
Yep,
Jabba's left. Not. It looks like used
Well, that's
fanny
our
pads.
faces.
That's us.
Jeez.
So that's the history.
It
You're up
was
to
good.
date.
I loved it.
No, it's a history
You know
lesson. Is that what it
I
was?
get
Oh,
quite
was that what
excited.
this
And
preview
the
was all
chat
about?
has,
A history
had all
lesson?
sorts of,
Oh.
fun, as well as some speculating that we might see today.
I'm just covering up the image.
I couldn't say which edition got the biggest shout out, but what I would like to do is just right now, whatever your first edition was, bang the number in the chat. I'm
Bang
really
your
curious
first
to see.
again.
I think fourth.
Bang
had
your
it, but
first.
I'm genuine. Oh, it's gone wild.
That's some life advice
But
right
as it
there,
flies
people.
by, there's a lot of
Adam's
ninth
dropping
edition,
truth bombs.
which
Wait,
actually-
Adam's
Welcome.
dropping truth bombs.
Yeah, welcome to the party.
Bang your
eight,
first
just
again.
had a full screen of eights.
Just
This is
hammer it.
exciting.
So
I tell you what, there
you
is.
might have to get
There's-
on the
there's
horn,
35
give her a call,
years of
or him,
Warhammer hobbyists
and,
in our stream.
you know.
So whether you are a great
Give 'em a go again.
old Warhammer
Maybe you
fan
both
like
are a little
myself,
better
or
at it.
fresh
It all
faced
depends on
and
the scenario, I
new,
guess. But
welcome to Warhammer 40.
We're talking about the game,
Welcome
right?
To the stream. Happy Warhammer Day. I think we're about ready.
I think we had a shameless plug before we
really,
Oh,
about
did
ready.
we
It's
go?
almost
Plug
20
away.
after, for Christ's sake.
Right. Hang on. Oh.
Raf spread buttons.
There we go. Right. So before-
shameless plug.
Shameless
And
plug.
it's actually one of the most exciting things about Warhammer Day.
Yeah, before
Eddie, take it
we
away.
dive into the previews,
I
just a
do
quick
enjoy
reminder
this
that
sculpt.
Today is Warhammer Day, and every
enjoy
year
this sculpt.
we have a day that celebrates Warhammer.
really, really
This
cool.
year's theme is 35 years of Warhammer 40,000, and we have a special edition miniature to commemorate the occasion. It is a Black Templar's Bayard's Revenge, which shows a Black Templar Emperor's Champion stabbing an unfortunate orc, which I feel a bit sorry for him, but the model
I
is.
think he's got exactly what he deserves and
I
nothing
mean,
more.
I'm
he
not
wants
gonna
to
lie.
die in battle. He's all right with it.
The orc
but,
kind
a
of looks
really,
like
really cool.
he's not
Kind
getting
of
stabbed.
thematic,
pulled.
kind of diorama piece really to celebrate Warhammer Day. And
Brian
you can
Huss.
pick
Second
up
edition?
this
Second
on
edition? Yeah.
pre-order from GamesWorkshop.com right
Second
now.
edition was when I
and it'll
really
also be
started playing a
available
lot.
in
But I played a
stores
lot
from
of
next week.
Rogue Trader.
Super. So if you want to celebrate
Buddies and
Warhammer Day by buying an awesome new model, that is how GW.com or games-workshop.com.
Hell, I even tried to get my dad.
You can. But we are about to dive into the first of our
Yeah, let's see some
previews.
new stuff.
Yeah, let's
Raph, take
come
it
on,
away.
bring on the new stuff. Here we go. Here we go. Get ready. It's guard. Oh, look at this. Oh. Oh, wow. I'm excited. Ready? Oh, look at that. Is that a thud gun? Is that thud gun? Is that a fucking thud gun? Oh. Mortars, yeah, bringing the mortars back. Always gotta have mortars. Oh, the commissar. Look at the commissar. Sentinel. Very cool. Holy moly. Did they rework the tanks? Oh, there's a big auto gun in the back, too. Oh, it's a Canadian armory set.
What a way to kick off the previews
Wow.
with the Cadia Stands army set.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. So there's a whole heap of new things on the way for the Astra Militarum, particularly for Cadia. So there is a new army
look at
box
this.
set, and there is a range of other
army
miniatures
set.
that are coming alongside it. But let's have a look at the box set first.
So good.
So this is, much as we've seen recently with things like the Leagues of Votan, the relaunch of the Astra Militarum, including pretty much fundamentally reinvention of the infantry range, starts with an army launch set, and this is what you get in that set. So it's the Cadia stand set. You get 2 squads of Cadian shock troops. You get a Sentinel, which you can build up as an armoured or a Scout Sentinel. You get a command squad, and you get 2 new artillery pieces, which is a brand new unit for the Astra Militarum, which you can build in a variety of different ways. The other thing you get in the army set is the first access to the Codex, which has got all the new rules for your army, for all the new units that are joining your army, and for the various different ways you can put an Astra Militarum.
I assume they look so different
it's
because Carl sunk his mechadendrites into the
Astra
STCs.
Militarum fans have been waiting for their army.
Well, I don't think
quite
they
a long
look
time.
different. I mean,
They're
obviously the
last
same
up
style,
of the existing
but
armies
I think
for this
it's the
edition.
proportions.
But one of the reasons
they got a
is
taller
that
stance.
it's worth the wait. Basically, there's a huge amount of stuff coming.
It's pretty hard to argue anything else.
Yeah, so there's loads and loads of really cool stuff in there. But that is your launch set. That's what you get to kick off your new
artillery
Cadian force.
piece.
So
I like that
we can
thud gun
have a
thing.
look at some of the.
It looks
details.
fun.
Some
It's
of the
probably
details,
like a
really.
multi-shot, but it only does
so
like,
here you can see the
minimal
Cadian
damage
shock
kind of
troops.
thing.
They are the backbone of the Cadian regiments, of course, dispossessed since their world had a little incident. But as we've learned, wherever there are Cadians standing against the enemy, Cadia remains. And so, incredible new plastic multi-part kit with some gorgeous options. Talk us through what you can see, Eddie.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a 10 model kit, but you can build them in loads of different ways. If you've had a play with things like the new Death Corps range or any of the kind of recent squads like that, you'll get an idea of like the flexibility and the range of different options. There's loads and loads of variety in the kit. You can see already if you've got any of the old Cadians that have painted them up, that the level of detail on these new miniatures is like a real step up. This is like a much improved kit with loads of options. There's a few things that are worth calling out about the set. So one of the things that you might notice about the set is that it has multiple special weapons in, but it doesn't have a heavy weapon squad. One of the things about the new Cadian shock troop unit is that you've got a choice in how you want to use those miniatures in your games. You can either use them as an infantry squad, in which case you can add on a heavy weapon, or you can use them as a dedicated Cadian shock troop unit. The Cadians, I've got years of experience as shock troops fighting against chaos incursions, so they favour a more mobile style of play. So you can use the unit if you want to. Instead of having a heavy weapon, you can use them as specific shock troops, and they get multiple special weapons and some extra rules to represent their unique abilities as shock troops.
Awesome. And as you can see, there's a host of options within the new infantry squad. You've got Flamer, Melter gun, you had a plasma gun on the previous page.
All the
You've got
classics.
Vox Operator, Sergeant, loads of great poses, loads of options. It's going to be very fun for people who want to build squads.
There's no kneeling legs in the kit, of course, because...
Is that because the Cadians stand?
That's because Cadians stand, absolutely.
And a lot of love for these in the chat.
Very cool.
We are not done with the Cadians by any measure.
I'm not sure about Buddy's radio,
Cadian
though.
Command Squad. Everything you'd expect. Obviously, you've got the Officer, the Veteran Sergeant, Voxcaster, Standard Bearer, and a Medic. The Medic's my favourite. Literally just stood there, chilling out, enjoying life.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably
that's a
when the
medic?
battle starts, he's going to have a pretty rough afternoon of it. But right now, he's not having the worst day.
like some sort of
But again, it
operator.
adds loads more
Or no, the
options
guy in the
and
far
bits
left
to
is
your
the
kits as well, so you can mix and match this to some extent with the other Cadians. So heads and things are interchangeable. The detail on them is lovely. You've got like sculpted banners
it's
on there and
lovely.
things like that. There's the power fist. The guy with the power fist that you can just about make out has got a cigar, which is like a pretty classic Cadian thing. There's lots of bits of artwork.
You know you're a
of,
battle hardened sergeant.
absolutely, yeah. When you're allowed to have a cigar.
Stump.
Yeah, I really like
man.
the Vox guy at the
gonna
top. He's
lie.
got like a mix of weird future tech, and also he's like printing out a
Is it
little
like
read.
he's sort of printing out as he goes along?
Yeah, it's like, have you got a
Casualty
receipt for that
lists.
artillery bombardment? The commander's really cool as well. He's got a power sword there, and he's got a kind of holding helmet pose. And he clearly has been through the wars as well, because he's got a huge scar
Well, he's an
across the
officer,
front
right?
of his
He's
face.
gonna just
but a really characterful, almost again a diorama-esque sort of unit to show off your painting skills, because you might have quite a lot of infantry in your army, but you can take your time on these guys to kind of show what you can do. But really, really cool thematic characterful.
Now I wonder if the
banner was amazing. Like that sculptural detail on the banner looks incredible. Cool. If you are like me and can't find
these things are huge.
Absolute winner. This is my favourite thing in the set. I suspect much of the chat will agree. The Field Ordnance Battery. So you get 2 of these in the set. The options you can build are, he says, and then gasps in for breath as he scrolls to get the names right, because the last thing I want to do is mislead the chat. But you have a heavy las cannon, that's front and centre.
Yep.
Then you have, I think it's called a bombard gun.
I think it is. Yeah.
On the left.
And then, I'm going to forget the name. Tactically blow the name of the other artillery piece. You're just going to have to trust me that it's awesome. And I will scroll through my list and find it. But yeah, so you get 2 of these ordnance teams.
It's
for the people who want to know,
bombast field gun,
perfect,
a heavy las cannon, and a malus rocket launcher.
Of course,
you got.
Perfect.
They do some different things. As you'd imagine, these are like artillery pieces you park at the back of your army, and they blast stuff from really far away. They've all got pretty hefty range. They all shoot 48 inches. And the choices you've got basically are that rocket launcher on the top left. That is just a vast amount of hits on something. So you point that at something you want to get loads of hits against. That's your infantry wrecker. The heavy las cannon does what you'd expect. It's a las cannon plus, so it does more damage than a regular las cannon. It's a big heavy las cannon. You could probably even guess the stats if you took a go. And then the bomb blast at the top right is basically, if you think about it, as like a slightly smaller earthshaker cannon. So you can shoot stuff that you can't see. It dishes out multiple blast damage 2 shots. So you can park that behind a big building or something out of line of sight and pummel away at the enemy in relative safety.
Yeah. Other things to point out about this kit, which are super cool, is obviously you've got loads of different sort of heads and arm poses as you look across the different sort of bases with the field guns on. You can see you've got one covering his ears. You've got the option to be pointing at targets or raising your hand, calling for fire. Different head options. They're fantastic. It all comes on a 100mm base for that one person in the chat who usually asks what size bases they're on.
The one guy who loves his bases.
And with all these sort of munition boxes and things, you basically can create yourself like a lovely little scene as well as a devastating long-range weapon.
I like the rocket thingy.
I'm going to struggle very much to resist building mine as the bombast. Because I think it looks awesome.
They all look pretty cool. I like the missile launcher myself. I think
I just think any field gun that's big enough that you could put your head down the barrel, then that's where it is for me.
Yeah, but it's not just
more firepower, Eddie.
Absolutely, it's not just the army set. So accompanying the new army set soon after it, those kits will be available individually, and they'll be backed up by a range of other things. So one of the things that is a staple, almost essential, of Astra Militarum are the heavy weapon teams. You've got a few options in how you use these. You can either put them together as a squad and use them as a little triple squad of autocannons, heavy bolters, las cannons, whatever you need, or you can add a little bit of heavy firepower to your infantry squads, and they can have a missile launcher or a mortar or something to back them up in killing stuff that they might otherwise struggle with. Much like the artillery, each one of these effectively gives you a little diorama scene to play out. You've got like the guys reloading and spotting and shouting orders and directing fire and things like that.
You make no
bones
about
what these do. They've been in Warhammer 40,000 for about 30 years at this point.
Right? Space Marines can
it's
just
nice
walk
to see
around carrying
a
their heavy
reinvention
weapons,
of the miniatures.
And then somebody has to keep these guys in.
This guy looks cool.
And there will be a new Astra Militarum commissar who looks really quite stern and uncompromising.
Yeah, he looks like he means business, doesn't he? So most of your Astra Militarum have got las guns. I think it's a nice touch that this guy's got a bolt gun, because you can almost the sound of the discharge of that will keep the troops in line, right?
Yep.
He's also got a power sword. It looks a pretty hefty means business power sword by the look of it as well. And he's got a little bit more armoured than the commissars we've previously seen.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some of the commissars we've seen over the years have very heroic leading from the front type poses, don't they? Whereas he almost seems like the sinister standing at the back making sure you're doing your job.
Yeah, you see like an onrushing horde of orcs and you look behind you and you see this guy looking sternly at you. You're like, maybe I will. Maybe I'll stand here and fight the orcs.
Yeah, he looks great, but also not at all friendly, which I guess is appropriate.
That's what you want. I mean, you don't become a commissar to make friends.
That's the job.
We can't all be Iram Gorn, can we? So if you want to stand a little higher than your friends, of course there is the new Sentinels. As you mentioned earlier, Eddie, the Sentinel enables you to build 2 models. This is the Scout Sentinel variant.
Cool. Yeah, so it's obviously a little bit lighter than the the Armored Sentinel we've seen, and we do have a shot later on that shows you what happens when you choose each option in terms of how much armor it gets. The Scout Sentinel's got some nice touches, so you've got Acadian in there that's driving it, which you can interchange for the heads and options and things with some of the other kits. You can see the kind of packs of equipment on the side of it as well, which is kind of hinting towards that Scout nature. You can imagine that these things range ahead of the rest of the Astra Militarum army, and maybe set up little camps and things to watch on enemy positions, that sort of thing. And you can give it a chainsword, which actually in the new rules isn't too bad in combat. It's not too shabby.
It's
actually
good to know.
It used to be almost like a token extra attack, but now it can. It's not going to win a fight against the dreadnoughts, but it can certainly see off some light infantry or something like that.
Yep, I think the protuberance at the back, I think, is its gyro stabilizer to help it going through more difficult terrain. I saw a question about that, but and then here you can see the Scout alongside the Armoured Sentinel, armoured all day.
Oh,
for
even
me.
the legs are
current
armoured,
Astra Militarum army is a Steel Legion army.
Oh, wow.
And it's got the heavier armor on the legs. It's got the heavier armor all around the cabin. Looks fantastic.
I like the armor.
And you can see there's
it's got
the difference really between these two and the current Sentinel kits is the current one. The only difference really between the armored and non-armored ones is like a roof, basically. Whereas these ones do look like different miniatures. It looks much lighter on the light version. These obviously also a nice thing for Genestealer Cults players like myself. I might be picking up a few of these and painting them purple with some graffiti sprawled across them. And they look quite similar to some of those kind of mining equipment things as well. They've got kind of industrial look to them as well. They look no nonsense. So I think they'll Genestealer up pretty well.
I mean, the Sentinels are cool.
I'm with you. Of course, there's got to be some rules for these guys in the new codex, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that is worth noting about the new Astra Militarum army is that currently the way that you do an Astra Militarum force is that you need to pick a regiment, and then once you've kind of picked a regiment, you're sort of locked into that force. That's not the way that the new rules work for Astra Militarum. It's much more similar to if you remember the Imperial Guard armies of maybe second edition, where you had like a few Mordians and you had a few Cadians and maybe a squad of Catachan jungle fighters all mixed together, kind of formed into a grand crusade under the banner of a kind of high commander, and you'd have some auxiliary units like Ogryns and things like that. So what you do in the new Astra Militarum army is that you get all your models together and you can pull them from wherever you want. So you can have your shock troops fighting alongside your Death Corps, fighting alongside your jungle fighters, and then you go, the theme of the army is going to be that this army is going to specialize in parade drills or target practice or heavy weapons or artillery or something like that. And within that, you can choose what special rules you want to apply. So it basically means that you don't need to decide on your rules before you start collecting your miniatures. There are obviously themes that lend themselves really well to existing regiments, so we've got a couple of examples up there. So parade drill is a good one. If you have a Mordian army and you like lining them up in firing ranks as the enemy charge towards you, this is one of the army special rules that you can choose to have, which gives you a benefit for basically standing still with your troops and firing with your las guns. If you have a Death Corps Krieg army, and you like the idea of having, pushing waves and waves of infantry into the meat grinder of war, this allows you to basically benefit from taking casualties, and you can hit back harder. So there are regiments that lend themselves to specific rules, but you don't have to stick within that regiment. So lots of people will have picked up maybe Kill Team last year, and they'll have a squad of Death Corps of Krieg. You can absolutely put those in with your new Cadians, and it works as an army.
I mean, when you think about all the classic stories,
this wouldn't be a typical way
in Black Flag and always the Astra Militarum, often operating combined operations in multiple regiments all in one battle zone. The friction between the different guard regiments is one of my favourite things about the Gaunt's Ghost books, for example. And somebody in the chat just suggested that you should always team up with a friend, take different regiments, and argue about how to fight.
That would be very appropriate.
Which seems completely right in my mind. Also, big shout out to the extremely sort of gnarly look of the Cadian shock troopers in this artwork. The grim, dark aesthetic dialed up to 11.
Yeah, I think a lot of the recent Warhammer 40,000 artists had this sort of style.
The buddy in the middle,
an artist who's working on some of these that has just got that grim darkness absolutely down. Obviously, these Acadians who've lost their planet and have probably been through the wars for the past few decades, and these guys, rather than just being a bit sad about it, have decided to get vengeance.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some questions flying by in the chat, but there is like 27,000 of you, so my chances, 28,000 of you now, my chances of covering them all are pretty slim. Somebody said, have we said when the miniature is going up for pre-order? If you're referring to the Bayard's Revenge Warhammer Day miniature, that should be available for pre-order on the website now. If you're talking about this particular army set, sometime in the not too distant future,
It's not far
keep
off.
your eyes
It's not far off.
peeled and watch warhammercommunity.com, and I'm sure we'll get you the latest. The normal Cadian shock troopers come on 25mm bases, so and I think the command squad are on 28.5.
Okay, so they're only on 25 mils. Interesting.
Later. I don't know, maybe somebody wants to write an article about base sizes. It's not me that wants to write that, though, I swear. Right. Whew. That was pretty wild.
It's worth saying that isn't everything that's on its way for...
Do you mean there might be more Astra
There is
Militarum
more
stuff?
stuff on the way for the Astra Militarum.
Yeah, like I'm
Maybe
curious,
within
are they
this
going to
preview,
update like
maybe
Lehman
even more
Russ
after
and
that.
the
So we've shown you the about half maybe of the new Cadian stuff that's on its way.
Excellent. As for this Cadia Stands army set, you also, we've mentioned you get the Codex. That Codex is its sort of special edition cover. We haven't shown the cover. Trust me, it's amazing. But when you see the cover, eventually you'll realise why we haven't shown it yet. And also, there's a transfer sheet for all of your unit sort of marking needs. There we go. I think we've covered that off. We are well behind schedule. This is great.
It's all right. It's fine.
Why don't we throw over to the Warhammer Studios Warhammer 40,000 Lore Master, who's going to tell us all about the next big thing coming our way?
Oh.
Arcs of Omen is a massive narrative campaign event taking place for all the factions in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, and they're named for particular Space Hulks that have emerged in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. So these are Space Hulks that have been tooled up a little bit. Abaddon has some assistance, it's fair to say, from a new player who's entered the game, who's turned these Space Hulks into Arcs of Omen. This is part of Abaddon's ongoing plan to subjugate the galaxy. It's a pretty big ask, so he does need some assistance, and it's probably fair to say it's not going to be good news for anyone not aligned with the War Master. So the introduction of a new fleet of tooled up Space Hulks with accompaniment from Chaos War fleets from various lieutenants and chosen warlords in Abaddon's service means there's a whole new scope for entirely different types of warfare in the 41st millennium. So you'll find new rules for boarding actions distributed through the Arcs of Omen campaign books as we're taking the fight onto Space Hulks, spaceships, orbital stations, anything that you can imagine in space, and taking the fight off the battlefields of the planets of the 41st millennium into those sorts of environments. So it'll make use of some of the scenery that you'll have been familiar with from Kill Team Into the Dark, but scaling it up for a Warhammer 40,000 scale boarding action. So similarly to Kill Team Into the Dark, you can imagine there are going to be a lot of close-ranged firefights taking place, and there'll be certain units and troop types that benefit from those sorts of actions, maybe more so than others. So some of the longer-ranged troops maybe not getting quite so much of an airing, but the close-quarter bruisers and breachers, Tau breaching teams, Terminators, the sort of things that you can associate with Space Hulk clearing actions, that sort of stuff will certainly get a good run out, I'd have thought, in the boarding actions. So Abaddon's goal is to take over the galaxy, not like Horus did as a vassal or a slave to the Chaos powers, but using his own strength and his own merits. But the galaxy's a pretty big target to try to take over, so he's had to make certain alliances and deal with various power brokers that exist in the galaxy of the 41st millennium. And we're going to see the introduction of a hitherto unknown figure that's going to help him in that regard. So there's something for every Warhammer 40,000 collector. There's new rules for every faction to take part in boarding actions in the Void, and there's also some huge new pivotal background moments. And Arcs of Omen will probably go down as the biggest event in Warhammer 40,000 history since the establishment of the Great Rift.
Discover the Arcs
of Omen. Eddie, what can you tell us?
Well, Wade's done a pretty good,
I guess he summed it up
good
already,
job
right?
of telling you what's going on. But Arcs of Omen basically is the next major narrative beat for Warhammer 40,000. This is Abaddon's next major play. Basically, he's ripped the galaxy in half with the signature from
Bigger question is,
he's
are we
been
going to get
all
Battle
but
Fleet?
Victorious at Vigilus, and his next
Damn it,
play
boys,
is
give me Battle
alongside
Fleet
a
again.
new
Kim!
demonic ally.
I like
that
the new
he's
stuff
got.
anyway, but
He
this is great stuff.
He's created
Kris,
the
are you
Arcs of
doing away with
Omen,
brush I was
and
planning on it.
huge fleets of ships which have gone out to collect artifacts for some unknown nefarious purpose. It's kind of the dark mirror almost of the Indomitus Crusade, setting out to
I like that.
it's good.
depiction here.
To setting out to find all sorts of like arcane trinkets and relics and things across the galaxy. Nobody really knows what he's up to, but everyone's pretty sure that it's going to be bad news if he succeeds.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the scene is set for something sort of very epic. You can see here this.
Well, the thing is that
huge.
We're getting lots of
conglomeration, this space Hulk thing,
pictures,
vomited out from the warp.
Chaos
the warp
Warfleet
looks pretty sick, to be honest.
Yeah, you can see like bits of teeth in there coming out. So I mean, it means that it's not obscure. So the arcs themselves are space Hulks. They're these enormous, great conglomerations of loads of ships mashed together over the millennia inside the warp and turned into enormous, great floating fortresses. Chaos has kind of taken them and turned them into these enormous arcs. So these are the center of Chaos fleets. And basically they've sent them out, and there's battles erupting all across the galaxy, not just against the Imperium, but against all sorts of different factions where they're trying to grab them. And obviously, some forces are trying to stop them. So the Imperium obviously isn't a fan of these, but also there's Eldar, and where they're bumping into other civilizations in the galaxy. There's battles erupting. So from a lore perspective, this is really huge, right? This is the next major thing that's happening for Warhammer 40,000. The other thing that this means, a new series, a new narrative will also herald new miniatures. So there will be lots of cool new things, right? There'll be lots of cool new things that are tying into this as well. And we'll have a closer look at some of those in the future, but not today. One of the kind of so I suppose defining nature of the battles that's happening off the back of the Arcs of Omen is that these great big arcs are either attacking Imperial stations and fleets, or they're trying to be boarded basically by the Imperials and other Xenos races to stop them. So you've got these enormous, great boarding action battles that are erupting all across the place. So there's some rules to play those inside the books. So there's an interesting thing about these books, which is kind of come directly from feedback from customers, which is that you don't have any new rules for the core Warhammer 40,000 game.
So for match play specifically, right? Kind
of for all of the game really. So there's no Crusade rules in these. There's no match play rules in these, and that's come from feedback from players basically that says we don't really want our rules for a single army to be spread over multiple books, which is cool. Like we hear you. So what you've got in these instead is something even better, which is a brand new way to play Warhammer 40,000. It's a self-contained expansion that basically allows you to play boarding action battles of Warhammer 40,000. So these aren't the kind of small scale skirmishes that we've seen in things like Into the Dark. This is full scale, one army versus another army across the inside of a spaceship, smashing each other to pieces, reminiscent of some of the best bits of fiction basically of Warhammer 40,000. If you've read any of any large amount of 40k fiction, there's probably a boarding action in there somewhere, and they're all
loads of them in the Heresy era, don't you?
There's
Imperial fists
boarding-tastic,
boarding everybody's ships and then getting their heads kicked in. Wonderful. So I guess it's fair to say that this heralds something new and exciting for Warhammer 40,000, but we're going to need like some new way to.
You're going to need some terrain.
Yep, perfect. Segue. Let's go.
Terrain. Give me Eldar terrain. Otherwise, I riot.
The galaxy is burning.
Yeah,
so get away from it all on a beautiful Space Hulk holiday from Imperial Cruises. Thanks to our new boarding action package, you can step right off the boat and experience the trip of a short and violent lifetime. You'll never escape this labyrinth or run out of things to see and do. All a short walk away through corridors too cozy for traffic. There's never a dull moment when the locals come to put on a show. And while you're taking in the sights, don't miss the decaying remains of civilization around your feet.
Terrain.
You'll find history in every step.
For everybody.
So what are you waiting for?
Like the bases.
We await your visit on the Arcs of Omen.
Okay.
Boarding actions, an enormous set of terrain, so you can fight your own battles on the inside of some derelict Hulk.
Absolutely. So we've seen already that the first place we've seen this terrain is in the Into the Dark set.
Absolutely.
This is a much bigger expansion of that basically. So this is a Warhammer 40,000 sized battlefield for combat patrol sized games of Warhammer 40,000 using boarding actions terrain. So it's played across, and inside that box you get 2 kill team boards worth of scenery.
Yep.
And combat patrol battles generally are played at about 500 points. But what tends to happen is, because it doesn't include things like monsters and vehicles, you tend to have slightly different force compositions than you would for a combat patrol size game. So you tend to find things like Terminators and Orc Knobs and Tau Breacher teams and Striking Scorpions and all those kind of like close range deadly units, which are close combat or very short range firefights, do very well. And you have it's a very different play experience from Warhammer 40,000 basically, and it gives you something really interesting to bring into things like if you're doing a campaign or something at home and you want to kind of recreate a different type of battle that's underground or in a spaceship or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Those sort of linked games where you can start to sort of create a narrative with your gaming group are a delight.
Yep.
And these really sing to that. And as you can see, the games themselves have the potential to look just incredible, don't they? Sort of fighting over every doorway, every corridor, every choke point and corner. Yep, love it. And as you said, this Boarding Actions box set contains sort of 2 times the content of the Kill Team set that was released recently. So if you already have 2 of those, then you and a friend have bought one each, and you've got enough terrain to play your Boarding Actions.
If you've got the Arcs of Omen book, then you can immediately start playing, basically. Yeah.
But likewise, just pick up one of these, and you are good to go. Also, bases.
They look
really cool. I mean, lots of people like having bases themed to the battle zones they're playing in. These will also be a piece of cake to paint if you spray them grey and give them a dry brush.
Absolutely. So I mean, it's a small thing, isn't it? But it's nice to have some really cool base options. Lots of Warhammer 40,000 armies obviously have got grass tufts and dirt and things like that. But plenty of the battlefields of Warhammer 40,000 are inside, industrial, in spaceships, that sort of thing. And certainly some armies lend themselves very well to this sort of aesthetic. So if you've got like
Ghost of Starman, it's like 6th edition but backwards. Instead of everyone having fires,
Terminator,
nobody does.
Force, then actually having space hulky looking boarding
it does
action
feel like that sometimes.
flavored scenery
I know
for
a lot of people
really
didn't care for the additional flyers of the main game, but
yeah, perfect. So, Warhammer 40,000 Boarding Actions. So we
Adam looked like he was about to have a stroke.
Just to do a bit of sort of retreading to where we come from. We've unveiled the Cadia Stands Army box. We've talked about the Arcs of Omens. We've talked about Warhammer 40,000.
Okay, give us more of the World Eaters.
40,000 Boarding Actions. Nice maybe to give Kill Team a little bit of a look in and see how it connects to this theme.
We'll see.
Legion, the bases look great. Would also fit in Necrona. Yeah, 100%. Oh, here we go. Kill Team. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm in. Cadia. Oh. Oh, look at those models. Oh. Ooh, Necrons. Well, there we go. Games. Ha, look at the demo trooper. Nice. Infiltrate. Yeah, I'm digging it.
Fantastic. A new set for Kill Team featuring a very beloved unit of Astra militarum soldiers, the Kazakin, and some
Shadow Vaults.
Is that a fair description among the Necrons?
Yeah, so this is Shadow Vaults, the first expansion for Kill Team Into the Dark, and effectively allows you to bolt this on to your Into the Dark collection, or to kind of use as a standalone Kill Team kit alongside the core rules for Kill Team.
I'm glad he said bolt, not strap.
There's loads of cool stuff in this box, but the 2 things that are probably going to catch people's eye
Kazakin, man.
Are the units. You've got a new Kazakin unit of Cadians, and you've got a new unit of Necrons. So, Adam, I know you're a big fan of the Kazakin. Do you want to?
I really am. And I'm going to start by addressing a question, which is what's the difference between Kazakin and Tempestus Scions? And the difference is that these are the elite soldiers of the Gate World Cadia, such as it was obviously with Cadia destroyed. The Kazakin,
look at the little
escaped continues to exist, and they recruit and train new ones. Kazakin are seriously elite soldiers amongst a regiment. The regiments of Cadia that pride themselves on being more elite than your average Astra militarum regiments anyway. They're clad in carapace armour, which is that heavy armour you see. They carry Hellguns or hotshot lasguns as their standard armament. They have a preponderance of specialist weapons you'll see throughout the squad. You've got things like the long-range sniper rifle,
cool,
the
man.
flamer. They've got grenade launchers and plasma guns, and they are tasked for rapid deployment when Cadia existed to any places where incursions would take place. You can imagine them leaping out of Valkyries and rumbling out the back of Chimeras and just bringing death with fusillades of incredibly accurate firepower. These are the elite of the elite if you are just an ordinary human.
Yeah, this is about as elite as a human gets, aren't they? And these guys would have been tasked where Cadia existed with taking down enemy traitor Astartes to give you an idea of how tough these guys are. So their weapons, a lot of them are designed to be kind of armor-piercing, space marine killing weapons, basically.
The guy with the plasma gun looks like he dropped the
is
contact lens
incredibly flexible.
It's super versatile.
If you've had to play with any of the recent Kill Team kits, so things like the Corsairs or the Death Corps or the Commandos, you'll get a sense of like what I mean by that. You can build mostly with their hotshot las guns, or you can go for.
I wonder, are these guys on 25
loads of different special weapon choices? You've got every special weapon flavor you could want. There's also some kind of unique kill teamy specialists in there. So you've got a demolition guy that you can see on the extreme left there. You've got comms troopers. You've got sergeants. You've got snipers. You've got all sorts of different things. So it really is a super super flexible kit. It's a really nice reinvention as well of a metal unit from about 20 years ago.
40 of these in metal, and they were some of my favourites. And I think this is a tremendous reimagining. For context, you were referring to how versatile it was. We're talking. You can have all 10 with hotshot las guns. You can have 2 with melter guns, 2 with plasma guns, 2 with grenade launchers, 2 with flamers, 2 with hotshot volley guns, and then you've got an option of 5 specialists: the combat medic, demo trooper, recon trooper, sharpshooter, and box trooper. And a squad sergeant.
Yeah. So for me, I think one of the things that the kill team boxes have done is quite a lot of the time, I want to get 2 boxes just because there's so many options. Certainly, if you've been using something like the Astra militarum or the blooded, you've got more options that are really good that you want to use, right? So you can get a few of these sets and intermingle them depending on your opponent. Obviously, that's for kill team. If you're playing Warhammer 40,000, you can use these guys as well. They're going to have rules in the new.
That was one of the questions: is will these work well in Warhammer 40,000? The answer is hell yes.
Yeah, so they've got a really fun thing.
They've already introduced the idea
in
of
Warhammer
taking these kill
40,000,
teams
where
and bringing them into the main
earlier
game,
on we were talking about the different regiment rules that you can give to your force. What Kazakh can do is everybody in your army gets a regiment rule, but because these guys are elite, they get another one. So they can pick from any of the other regiment rules. So you can say these guys used to be siege veterans, or they've had extra parade drills, or they've had extra they're extra tough or resilient or something like that.
They specialise in something else on top.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like if you used to do a similar thing with veteran squads for Imperial Guards, where they used to have a few extra rules.
So I wonder if this will come out at the same time as the Imperial Guard stuff,
which is represented by having another bonus army rule on top of everything else. It's a really nice little
the
rule. The
40k rules for these guys will be in the Guard Codex in the Cadia Stance box, and then released separately shortly afterwards. So you'll be able to get your hands on it nice and promptly. Don't panic. But they're not alone. They're not just sort of having a parade. They are fighting against the Hierotek Circle, which are a group of Necrons with some new things added in and some awesome upgrades, right?
Yeah. So the idea for this faction is that it's a Cryptek and his retinue, basically. So he is exploring the Space Hulks, looking for artifacts, looking for kind of arcane treasures, and he's brought his warriors with him in case he bumps into any enemies, which is what you want to do inside a Space Hulk.
Are these newer models?
Some of these miniatures are miniatures we've seen before. So the Cryptek in the center is an existing miniature, and then some of them are brand new, and some of them are upgrade kits for existing Necrons. So it's a bit of a mix of different things. One of my favourite touches is the smaller Necron that you can see there, the guy just to the left of the Cryptek. He is an Apprentek, so he's basically a Cryptek in training. He's like an apprentice to the Cryptek, and he's not quite got the kind of arcane skill, but he kind of knows his way around some kind of dark physics, and he's got a kind of cool staff as well.
Is it wrong that I find the Necron subordinates quite adorable?
I think there is a sort of like humorous tragedy to the Necrons in terms of like how they've hierarchied themselves. But what's quite sad, obviously, is that the Cryptek will probably never die, right? Because he's a Necron, so he'll never actually get to be a Cryptek. He'll just kind of stay as a secondary a support guy for eternity, which is a little bit sad.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said Necron's looking for artifacts. They are the artifacts, yes, but if you imagine their tomb worlds have been plundered for, I don't know, like 1 billion years since they went to sleep, and there's a lot of stuff missing.
Now, are these newer models?
So I don't blame them, sending out.
Anyone seen my ancient vase?
Exactly, right. And these are some serious foes to fight against. The Immortal Despotek, which is the fellow in the centre right now, just looks like final boss level when you compare these two kill teams directly against
He's
each
a
other.
literal death machine.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So
Literal.
this kit is based
Literally
on the existing Immortals and Deathmark kit, but you can obviously make that kind of more interesting character in the middle, and you get some other multi-part options for your Necrons as well, which is something nice because a lot of your Necrons are quite kind of they are serried ranks of identical warriors, right? That's kind of their thing. But the warriors inside a Cryptek circle have things like different optics. So if you look at the death marks there, they've got different choices for heads, and you can imagine specialist tracking equipment and seeing through walls and backwards in time and all sorts of weird and wonderful extra death dealing tech that they've got.
Pretty darn cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody asked what was the base size on the the Kazakin.
Who is this guy?
28.5 millimeters. Some people just like to know the base size.
Okay,
Who am I to judge?
Sure.
There are also some awesome little extras in this set, as well as the models and the terrain and so on. These are very handy little robot units. I think they're actually described as robots. I'm not just making that up. You have a heavy bolter turret sentry and a robot crawler machine, with or without breach
Fire Drake,
armor.
what is all this? GW selling snake
and
oil?
it does look like it's
Too
going to
early.
become the new champion of Robot Wars. I, for one, just want to stick the heavy bolter turret down at the end of a long corridor and watch chaos happen.
Yeah. So these are some of the extra bits that you get
Got a big
in
bomb
with
in the
the
upper right.
scenery basically that comes with this new set. A lot of the scenery is kind of expansions and stuff that you got in Into the Dark, but there's a few extra
Kim,
frames
those
that kind of
Necron
give
look
you a
great.
little
I
bit
want
more
them for my
variety.
Necron. Yeah,
and these things
they're
do
really
stuff in your games and allow you to play slightly different scenarios and missions and that sort of stuff. So they give you a very space hulky flavour to your kill team games, even more so than battling down the corridors that you've got.
True story. There we go. Coming
winded?
soon, Shadow Vaults, the new kill team.
Coming very
Is Adam
soon.
winded? I made the joke earlier that he might have had a
here's
stroke,
a
but
juicy piece of information.
is
which
he
is
having a stroke?
around the same time that this comes out? I think it's the same week. There is a Black Library novel all about Kazakin, written by a fella, and I had a dip into that just recently, and it's excellent. So there you go, a little tidbit from behind the scenes.
he might be
very
having a
excited.
stroke.
Right. We're not done yet, but we're
We're
running
not done yet.
gloriously behind schedule.
But wait,
Some people have been
there's
asking
more.
in the chat, can you please show us something for the World Eaters? All right, then.
Yeah, let's go. World Eaters. Let's go. Let's do this. In fact, I'm going to turn this up a bit. Oh, Juggernaut. Horsey. Oh, look at his helmet. Oh, that is fucking cool. Oh, look at the horns. His horns do the corn thing. His horns do the corn thing.
Hero? His hero?
Did you see that?
Model for
Character.
the
Character.
World Eaters, the Lord Invocatus, a incredible Khorne Berserker champion riding a demonically possessed lump of angry metal.
Yeah, this guy's pretty much just a wrecking ball of pain. So he is Lord of the
crazy about
Cartus
the
is a
back
name we
legs,
might
how
have
they're
heard
kind of
before.
positioned, but
If you've read every
looks really cool.
inch of your current Warhammer 40,000 lore, you've heard the name pop up a couple of times in references to planets that have been destroyed, maybe in previous Chaos Space Marine codexes, that sort of thing. But we haven't seen a model like this for a long time. This is a Khorne champion who's been blessed by Khorne with a Juggernaut, and just because his Juggernaut wasn't quite violent enough, he's put a chainsaw on the front of the Juggernaut just to make absolutely sure that if he hits something, it's definitely getting carved in half. The Juggernaut itself is like full of momentum and power. It looks very cool. We've seen similar miniatures recently for Age of Sigmar and for Demons, but that Juggernaut arguably is even more kind of armoured and spiky than some of those ones. The Chaos Lord himself on the back is like every inch cornate, right? So he's like very
that's
spiky.
really cool.
There's kind of teeth and skulls, and the helmet itself is a massive symbol of Khorne. The axe is pretty hefty.
Ghost,
it looks like he's going to make a
this
mess
is
of pretty much anything he
brilliant.
hits, doesn't he?
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat have been pointing out that he in some ways seems a little bit familiar, like reminiscent of a model from yesteryear, and of course he does. We've talked about some glow-ups, and here is one. It's a sort of a retreading of a very classic.
The classic one just looks cute next to this new one. Look at him, he's just so
I guess
sweet.
Shows
He's just a
how
little
far
fella.
we've come. My favourite thing about the new model is just that even his boots have teeth. This guy is like.
I think I had that
rage
original.
personified.
I've got the original one somewhere. I think I tried to make it into a chariot one day and messed it up.
So one of my friends did. This was a regular.
There was an
that
even older
and
version of
Abaddon were regular
back in the
sort
day,
of
everybody lost
opponents
their
that
minds
my
when
orcs
that
had to face in
Juggernaut
second
came out.
edition.
He was pretty good, I seem to
It
recall.
was horrible.
Yeah.
The way combat worked in second edition, anybody in the chat will know, is that I had 2 units of 40 grots, and as long as they didn't break, you had to kill everyone individually. There was no like running away as a group, and that meant that this guy might fight 5 combats a turn, and then it was very funny. Anyway, but it would take hours.
Yeah, so a few other things to say about this miniature. It does have some build options. We're not going to show all of the build options today, but there's some other stuff you can do with this kit. If you've had the new Demon Codex in your hands, you'll know that you can mix in some Chaos Demons in with your World Eaters when that Codex drops. So this guy would look very cool at the head of a big charge of Blood Crushers or something like that.
That would be dope. Yeah,
it would look
absolutely.
very cool. That's kind of his jam, right? That's where he sits,
Sophie,
is like leading the
Chaos
faster
Battle Force set this
demonic
Christmas?
charges
Possibly,
of the World Eaters. It's not all about running people with a
he's so
chainsaw.
adorable.
Sometimes
His
it's
little
about
axe.
getting on something that's running people with a chainsaw.
He's all right.
That's the World Eaters tactics.
It's got build
absolutely.
options. Yeah, that's right, Ghost. Build
And
options.
I think that is a good place to sort of bring it back to us and start to sum up. We've been with you for about an hour.
Are we done?
And we are, when we go offline
Boys,
here,
this is some...
now, we're going to go online. Raph is telling me live at one of the Warhammer 40,000 tournaments taking place somewhere in America, but
somewhere in America. Adam,
there we
come
go.
on, get with
So
it. Chicago.
right now in Chicago, people are getting ready to roll dice and play some games of Warhammer 40,000, and we'll hand over to our commentary team over there. If you want to hang around, watch some Warhammer, paint some models, I can think of no better way to spend your day / morning / evening.
If you're watching the stream, good odds that you like Warhammer 40,000.
There is a good chance of that.
Yeah, there's a small chance of that.
Yes.
Is that it?
Where have we gone? First of all, this has been a lovely celebration of Warhammer Day, and it's been great to have you all with us. We
Classic bit of artwork.
reminisce
Warhammer
about
art.
all of the glorious things,
Make this print
all
available.
the many editions over the 35-year history of this excellent sort of hobby and game that we all love.
Do it.
And we've unveiled
Astra Militarum.
Arcadia Stan's army set, this incredible boxed set of new Astra Militarum models coming very
You know what?
soon.
There's no heavy weapon teams in the box.
And it's like sort of the spearhead for the new Astra Militarum
Battlefleet,
range.
whatever.
Arcs of Omen, the next big
make it
thing in the
happen,
lore
boys.
and
Just make
narrative
it
of
happen.
Warhammer 40,000 as Abaddon leads his
Fighting in Space
sort
Hulks
of
is
dastardly
fine.
mission
Sure.
to sort of throw the
Give me
Imperium
some
into turmoil.
God's sakes.
Boarding actions, so you can recreate those events and battles and fight in the bowels of Space Hulks and battle cruisers and
Fire trigger right back
take
in
your battles to the stars. The Shadow Vault's the next set for Kill Team,
Shadow
with
Vaults?
the Kazakin and
Exciting.
the Hierotech
Kazakin?
Circle,
Kazakin?
and obviously the new Lord Invocar.
I like the helmet of the Lord.
It has been
That's a
quite
trip.
the time.
It's been fun. It's been nice talking about
Been fun.
Warhammer 40,000's 35 years.
I agree. What are you most excited about coming up?
Yeah,
I mean, I think I'm quite excited about the next Kill Team box, actually. I think I'm really, really enjoying Kill Team at the moment. I've got some Corsairs on my table right now, and I think I'll get some games with them in, and then on to Kaiserkin after that.
That seems fair. I'm weirdly excited about the artillery pieces for the Cadian army. I'm
Yeah, the artillery
look
is
at the
pretty cool.
possibility of like
The
an
rocket
artillery
pod thing.
company.
That's
See
just
if I can
awesome.
just bombard
Can
people.
definitely do that.
I assume I'll die as soon as the enemy lay their hands on me.
But you'll have a great first turn.
A few couple of volleys
Good
of fire.
first turn, I
for the
think,
hand.
yeah.
You never know. So, what remains is for us to thank you all for coming and joining us from all the places of the world that you have. Thank Raph, who has pressed all the buttons and made the stream work. Notley for running the moderation. Eddie for knowing all the answers to all the difficult questions. Whoever told me the base sizes, and most importantly, all of you for making this Warhammer Day, Warhammer 40,000 preview online something special. We're going to leave you with a little cheeky tease. So we'll sign out until
like a
next
strip
time.
tease.
See you again soon.
Adam taking off a fucking dress or something. shot of Eddie and Adam slow dancing.
I am that to architect.
What's that? What was that? Bastards. You said cheeky tease. That's done, right? Officially. Turn the music way down. In fact, off. Alright. So what the hell was that thing at the end? What was that? What was it? What could it possibly be? Who knows? Either way. Very, very fun. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, hanging out with me. Fire Drake's gone back to bed, obviously. And so it is, well, it's 10 o'clock my time, so Legion, Chaos Mechanicus. Is it Chaos Mechanicus? It kind of had like a demon wing thingy in with the little tendrils and stuff. So I don't, maybe Demon Mechanicus? Chaos Mechanicus? Dark Mechanicus? Which title is it everybody prefers? Hopefully you guys found this one fun. I'm excited for a lot of these releases. The Imperial Guard, we kind of knew that they were coming, and I'm glad that the Cadian regular foot soldiers actually are getting an update, so I'm actually looking forward to that. That's really darn cool. Shadowgate, Imperial Guard Kasrkin versus Necrons, I think that's pretty cool. I think we kind of should have expected some sort of 40k supplement to come out for regular, like Zone Mortalis type of battles in regular 40k, incorporating the new terrain that Games Workshop has been putting up for the kill teams. I think, we should have expected that one to be coming. Yeah. And the Khorne champion on Berserker or Juggernaut. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to this Khorne release. I usually don't get very fired up for Khorne releases, Chaos releases, stuff like that, but this has got me a little bit fired up because, yeah, it's Khorne, and the models have really, really needed an update, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that. Kim, can we replay the last bit and screenshot it? I will try. Yeah, do it. Post it on the Discord. Again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. I want to thank my patrons for making all these videos and such possible. Check the notes or the description for links for Patreon. Huge thank you to everybody who does that. If you're watching this on the YouTubes, there's a join button now, so feel free to click that if any of the tiers make sense to you. And yeah, if you're not able to support monetarily, thumbing up the video, liking, following, subscribing, commenting, ringing the bell, blah, blah, blah. All that helps as well. I'm going to go jump off, and I will be back at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday, Way of the Brush, where we basically answer your hobby-related questions or just chit-chat about anything. It's really kind of like this, except it's a little bit more colorful than here. It's just a little bit colorful, and it's colorful visuals as well as colorful language, so be warned. All right, is that it? We're done. Yeah, I'm gonna hop off, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a few, like less than 2 hours, for God's sakes. I think you guys can keep it in your pants for another 2 hours. No, right? Some of you can, some of you can't, I know that, but some of you can. I have faith. Oh, I'm gonna start singing Faith, George Michael song. Anyway.